But you know, then as you begin to study and you begin to think about the reality of sin, turn to Hebrews 3:13. I mean, basically, this is what we're confronted with when we sin. We have sin as a power, who's an enemy in this, seeking to make us obey corrupt desires, which is the enemy. Basically, there are two enemies here when it comes to my sin as a Christian. I've got sin as a power seeking to reign by making me obey sinful passions. And so I've got sin, I've got passions. If I can deal with those two dogs, I can nail this thing. Now, in 4:22 of Ephesians, what I wanted to show you is that these desires are called deceitful. Now, what I want you to see right here in Hebrews, exhort one another every day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Listen, sin's power to have sway in your life goes only so far in the fact that it has ability to deceive you. What I want you guys to understand is, if I'm to put to death deeds of the body, and they come from sin trying to reign in my body, the sin is deceitful, the desires are deceitful, guess what that tells me? It tells me I sin when I do what? When I believe a lie. You know how you put to death sin? When you stop believing the lie that you believe every time you do the sin. I'll guarantee you, those of you in this room that sin the most are the most given to believe a lie. You're doing it because I'll tell you what, sin is stupid. It is asinine. Every time. It is destructive. It doesn't help you. It only separates. It only damages. It's only destructive. And why do you do it? Because you buy into some lie. You know what? We see it in our kids. We see it in the lost. We got a young man who's a member of our church and just traded Christ for a woman. Why? Was that wise? Was that to his eternal benefit? Is that going to be helpful to him? Is that going to make him happy down the road? You know it won't. But see, it's not as though he's some alien and that's foreign to us. We've walked that path, folks. We have chosen sin. And even now, as a Christian, when you choose sin, you do so because just like that young man, you believe a lie. Every single time. You sin only when you believe a lie. Your pride is a lie. Your unrighteous anger is a lie. Your materialism, obsession with comfort, your greed, your idolatry, your covetousness, lust, jealousy, all lies. Whenever you give in to sin, mark it down. You have bought a lie. And if you'll really come to grips with this, it will help you. My brother, my sister, think about what lie you believe when you worry. What lie is it you've bought lock, stock, and barrel when you look with lust at a woman? What lie have you bought into when you interrupt others or feel superior or get angry or gossip or feel jealous or fight for comfort in this life? Or have to have your new toy? Count on it. There's a lie behind each one of these. Your struggle with sin is a struggle with lies. I guarantee you this. Those of you who sin most in this room, mark this down, are the ones most given to believe what is not true. You are the most gullible, you're the most ignorant, and you are the most deceived. Now listen. I want to leave you guys with this thought. Because sometimes what happens is we have some difficulty getting a grasp on what that is. You can say, okay, brother, I believe that. You've shown us sin, desires, they're deceitful. When I buy into them, I'm being deceived. You see, sometimes what's difficult, though, is figuring out what is the lie that I believe. Do you know one thing that I've seen? You know one thing that I've seen in Calvinistic circles, Reformed circles? One lie that is so prevalent. And I'll guarantee you the devil will have you believe this every time. It's the lie that I can't have victory. I am just doomed to perpetual failure. Listen, folks. You may come to that conclusion by some distorted hyper-Calvinism, but you will not come to that conclusion by the Word of God. In fact, the verse we just looked at in Romans 8:13 tells me exactly otherwise. It tells me if the power of God is real in your life, if you're truly in Jesus Christ, you have His Spirit. If you have His Spirit, by that Spirit, you will put these things to death. And one of the biggest lies that I have seen that Christians oftentimes fall into is this idea, I am just wretched, I am just defeated, I just cannot have victory in this. I'll tell you what, you misread Romans wrong if you're reading it that way. You look at Romans 6 and you look at verse 14, sin will not have dominion over you. You look at verse 17, it says God makes men and women obedient from the heart. Sin, if you are a Christian, we are told you are dead to sin. Now, I'll tell you, those are strong expressions. But that does not just have to do with our justification before God. That has to do with the power of sin in a practical and demonstrable way in our lives. Folks, if you're not putting it to death, then you will die.